Have you received a request for evidence from the USCIS? Hi, my name is Audra Doyle, and I am a partner of Thiru Doyle here in Atlanta, Georgia. We practice immigration law, family law, and personal injury law. And I am the immigration lawyer for the firm, so all I do is talk about immigration. And today we're going to talk about RFEs. RFE means request for evidence, and it is when immigration writes you a letter and ask you for more information, more evidence, or both about your case. Right now, it is May 2024, and this year I have already received more RFEs from January to May than I did in the entire year of 2023. So I want you to know this means that there is a trend upwards of immigration issuing RFEs. This is actually shrunk down, but as you can see, I have a lot. Many cases are getting questions. Some of them are fair. It's like, I understand where you're coming from on those questions. Others are not fair or not necessary. So for example, we're preparing a response for an RFE where the Immigration Service is asking for an Indian birth certificate for a person who was born before 1970. And we submitted the rule that says no birth certificate is required. We submitted the certificate of non-availability. We submitted secondary evidence, even though that's not really required. And now we got a request for evidence saying submit the birth certificate. So sometimes we have to do training with the immigration officers. It's unfortunate, but this is a reflection of their level of knowledge, in my opinion. We do have a lot of new officers at the Immigration Service, and sometimes it's a training problem. Other times it is a motivation problem where they may just say it's easier to press the button and issue an RFE than it is to adjudicate this case. So both of those things could have happened with your case to explain why you received an RFE. Now, what do I do when I receive an RFE? Number one, contact the client, make sure that they got their copy, and I reassure the client not to panic because, as I said, this is a trend. It may have nothing to do with their case, and it may have everything to do with those two reasons I gave before, training or motivation problems. Sometimes immigration lawyers have heard rumors that there is a directive to issue more requests for evidence. We've never seen, anything written down about that, but the trends are interesting and they show that. Now, when we receive the RFE, both myself, and the clients, we read the RFE, we go through the questions, and I will start to make a response plan. I will analyze what they are saying and decide, do we need more documents or do we have enough? Is this a reasonable question or not? And how are we going to answer this question? The next thing we do is note the due date of the request for evidence. And nowadays I have to take into account the Postal Service. If I have to mail this very close to the deadline, I'm not going to use the post office. I'm going to use UPS or FedEx to be sure that my case arrives on time. So we make a note of these deadlines, and we try to get the RFEs prepared within about 2 months of receiving. Usually we will have 3 months, about 84 days to respond, so a little less than 3 months to respond to these. And we want to make sure that our response is absolutely perfect as it can be, because you only get one chance to answer these questions. You can't submit a little bit now and then write them later and say, oh, by the way, I forgot this document. You have to submit everything at one time. Whatever you give them that first time, that will be considered the full response to your RFE. The last thing that I recommend that you do is watch for hidden questions. So these RFEs, it's not like a list of questions, number 1, number 2, number 3. It's a combination of paragraphs that include the law and include their summary and conclusion, and also does not put a question mark at the end. It just says submit more, and you have to dig around to really find it. So you need to read every single word and make sure that you're not missing a hidden question. The final thing, when it's time to mail this back in, we note where the RFE tells us to mail it. So on the last page these days, quite often, there is a cover sheet. And it says, put this on top of your RFE and your response, and it has the address listed right there. So the last tip for you today is be sure to mail it to the right place. I hope this information has been helpful to you. And once again, don't worry, you're in good company if you have received an RFE in 2024. I think the trend will get better again and it'll slow down, but for now, we are seeing a lot of these. If you have any questions, let us know, and thanks for subscribing to our channel.